The house is burning, but we're still sitting in the glow. Phones charged, lights on, pretending we don't know. But the forest is silent, the river's running low, and the flame on our plates is the strongest fire we throw. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. 7 boundaries broken, the earth pushed past the line. Climate, land, species, fresh water, chemicals, nutrients, oceans in decline. Not danger, disaster in real time. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Metafoodians rise, this is your power. And here in India, one truth stands the same. Milk is not just milk, dairy feeds the flame. Cows and methane, fields and forests turn to grain. Politics, culture, carbon, all wired to the same chain. Every cup of curd is heat in the air, every block of butter is a forest repair. It's not a small habit, it's a planetary affair. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is our hour. Energy fixes half the hurt, Dr. Rao made that clear. But food fixes the other half, the half that's burning here. Change the plate, change the land, change the future's atmosphere. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Metafoodians unite, this is your choir. Every millet, every fruit, every sapseed, every bean is water on the wildfire of a world we've never seen. Every oil-free bite is a river turning clean. This is not perfection, it's direction. Not pressure, but protection. A week of choices can cool a generation. A company's courage can ignite a nation. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. Metafoodians unite, Metafoodians ignite. Sharing love in the metazone, light in the path to a cooler home. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Together we rise, together we inspire.
Welcome to the Planet B podcast, where truth, transformation, and
has undertones of racism, of colonialism.
Welcome to the Planet B podcast, where truth, transformation, and faith converge. Join us as we flip the script on ecological despair, guided by Dr. Sailesh Rao's vision for a compassionate, rewilded vegan world. Let's begin the journey to the greatest transformation in human history.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of the Planet B podcast. Today, we'll be taking an in-depth look at how we use the Earth. Dr. Rao, this is going to be a really fascinating episode.
Yeah, it's based on data from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So it is something that you can go verify yourself exactly how we use the Earth. And I begin with a quote by Ted Perry that says, "This we know. The Earth does not belong to humans. Humans belong to the Earth."
I love that quote. So, why is that quote so significant to Planet B?
Because we have to begin looking at it the other way. Because right now we think that the Earth belongs to humans. We can grab whatever we want, take whatever we want, do whatever we want with it. And there are no consequences. And I'm saying, no, there are consequences to doing that. So we have to flip the script on that idea of enclosure. This is mine, that's yours. That sort of enclosure.
Yeah. So, in the last episode, we talked about a little bit of how the Earth got to this stable state over the last 6,000 years with the agricultural revolution and the industrial revolution. And now here we are today with this huge issue of how humans, as you state, are really competing over resources when this is quite unnecessary. So, Dr. Rao, how do we use the Earth?
We use the Earth in so many ways that are now responsible for causing this crisis that we are in. Okay. We have taken over 91% of the ice-free land area of the planet for our use.
Jeez.
Only 9% is original forest. Okay. That is the official record. And even within the 9%, I know that we have been doing a buzz cut on the natural forests. Because the United Nations has a rule saying that any 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer grid with 10% tree cover is classified as a forest grid.
Seems a little fishy.
So corporations have been taking forests and then doing a buzz cut on the forest so that you leave 10% of the trees behind and then use the rest for extraction. Okay, so that the UN classification is still a forest.
It seems kind of like a Planet A ideology. Yes.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and you see that I was looking at the satellite pictures and I'm saying, why the heck are we deforesting like this? And then it occurred to me, oh, because you're still classifying it as a forest because you left that green clump behind. So that's how we are. Hey, you can fool yourselves, you can fool the UN, you can fool people, but you cannot fool nature. Nature gives you consequences for your actions no matter what you do. So now if you look at the rest, 91%, how we use that 91%. We think that we are so big, right? There are 8 billion of us, there are too many of us, people get into all these stories about how numerous we are. But in reality, all our built land, all our cities and our railroads and our highways and our shopping centers, and all put together is only 1% of the ice-free land area of the planet.
Wow.
Okay. If you were to concentrate all the built land and put it in one spot, it'll cover Madagascar. That's about it.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Right? 19% of the ice-free land area of the planet is deserts and mountains. So basically unused land. Okay? And some of the deserts, you could argue, used to be forests, they used to be green, and we desertified them. Okay? And so that's also due to the main use of the land. Okay, so I'll get to that. 22% of the ice-free land area of the planet is monocultured timber land. It's still classified as forests in the UN because it's just a tree cover. They're
Right.
only looking at tree cover to say that's a forest. But it's basically monocultured. It's for timber, paper, and uses like that. So that's 22% of the ice-free land area of the planet. 37% is grazing land. And that's where our farmed animals are grazing. And then the remaining 12% is cropland. And so that's land we have cleared in order to grow crops for agriculture. And almost 2/3 of the cropland biomass. So we extract not only the grains from the crops, but also the crop residues. So 2/3 of that is going to feed our farmed animals.
Jeez.
Okay. So the primary use of the land on the planet is to grow farmed animals, not for human beings directly. And our farmed animals are only giving us 12% of the food we eat in terms of dry weight. Look at these statistics carefully, because you will see all kinds of different ways of expressing these numbers. Okay, I use the dry weight to dry weight. I say that for every 1 kg of food or 1 pound of food we get on our plate from animals, we had to feed the animals 39 kgs or 39 pounds
That's
of
shocking.
food. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's dry weight to dry weight comparison. Now you may have heard that for every pound of meat you had to feed the animal 10 pounds of grain. Okay, 1:10. Now you have to understand how they're doing that. That's 10 pounds of grain alone, not all food.
Right.
Number one. Number two, they're taking the actual weight of the meat, which mostly is water. It's not the dry weight of the meat. Whereas a grain has no water in it. It's already dried out. So you're comparing wet weight with dry weight. That's how you get smaller numbers. I mean, this is all animal foods put together, which is eggs, dairy, and meat all put together. You look at the dry weight. Then for every pound of dry weight that we eat on our plates, you have to feed the animal 39 pounds of food in dry weight. Okay? So please don't get fooled by these apples to oranges types of comparisons that they do. Because the industry is very adept at trying to con us.
That's such a crazy number. I mean, it's almost unbelievable.
Well, when you think about it, the animals have to basically grow. Yeah, watching an animal grow, watching yourself grow, it's a slow process.
Yeah.
It takes a long time for it to grow. And you have to eat a lot of food to grow. Okay, because you have to eat a certain amount of food just to maintain your weight.
Right.
And then you have to eat more food in order to grow, right? And so most of what the animal eats comes out as waste,
Yeah.
right? In fact, if you look at the total amount of food we get versus the total amount of waste that comes out of the animal, there again, for every 1 pound of food we get from the animal was wasting 10 pounds of food.
So is that 10 pounds of poo to 1 pound of meat?
Exactly, right.
Now, how could anyone think that makes any sense at all?
Yes, there's 10 pounds of poo for every 1 pound of meat.
And then the excuse they use is that could be fertilizer. Oh, we've got all this fertilizer.
Yeah,
So silly.
yeah. And most of what animals eat goes out as CO2. Basically,
Right.
they're breathing it out because they're metabolizing it, okay, just to maintain their bodies. So 1/3 of what they eat goes out as metabolized CO2. So our land animals are giving us only 12% of the food we eat in terms of dry weight. Our fish are giving us 3% of the food we eat in terms of dry weight. 85% of the food we eat is already coming from plants. Okay. And to get that 85% of the food we eat, we are using roughly 6% of the land area of the planet.
So does
So,
that mean that when you say 85% of the food we eat, that would be like all of humanity combined,
correct.
85% of the food of total humanity is vegan, essentially.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. 85% of the food we eat is already vegan. So most land we are using is for this animal food production. That's number one in terms of land use. The next is timber, right? So together we are using more than half, 56% of the land area of the planet, just for grazing our farmed animals and for timber. And if you include the cropland, it's 60% total. Okay.
So much.
Yeah. So that's completely under our control, meaning we can choose to not to do that. We can choose to re-engineer that and make it better. So this is why every time we eat animals, we are choosing to continue destroying the planet. We are choosing to continue inflicting cruelty on the animals. Because by now we all know how cruel that system is. So it's a system that treats animals as if they are objects, that they have no feelings. We assume that they are like machines, right? And that's an old way of looking at animals. So as of 2012, even scientists have acknowledged that animals are conscious beings who have feelings, who have emotions, who have, uh, they have similar lives as human beings, just as rich in terms of their sensory perceptions and their feelings. So I saw a poster carried by someone who said, all plants have protein, all animals have feelings, and all humans have options.
It's really good.
Yeah. Because it addresses why we think we have to eat animals, which is protein, that we need to eat animals for protein. And it addresses that animals are not objects, they're not machines, so they have feelings. And we have options. Because going from 85% to 100% using plants for our food is not such a big step.
No, not at all.
It's not at all a
Not at
big
all.
step. Yeah. And at the same time, you can address world hunger, you can address all the sustainable development goals, you can address all the planetary boundary transgressions, you can address animal cruelty, you can address human health, my God, it's one simple step that addresses so many things simultaneously. This is why I call nature the perfect system design, because I haven't seen any other problem where I studied one single thing would solve everything. Yeah, it's just incredible how the system is designed. It's fundamentally about love. Love for animals, love for all beings, love for your fellow human beings. Because when we eat animals, we are deliberately causing world hunger,
Right.
right? Because we are telling those people who are going hungry, no, that food that you were supposed to eat, I'd rather give it to animals and then eat the animals.
It's almost as if they're not as important as that's so sad, but true.
Yeah, yeah. That's the truth of it. We are taking away food from hungry children because we think we need to eat animals in order for our well-being.
Right.
Okay, and that is drilled into our heads in school, in the education system. Yeah. And so it also has undertones of racism, of colonialism in the food system, because basically in colonialism, what is happening is that the colonizing force, the colonizing tribe, comes to the colonized tribe and says that your food is inferior to my food. Okay?
Right.
So you have to eat like we do. So you have to emulate us in every way possible. in order to be accepted. So then we are making decisions not based on science and not based on what's available. We are making decisions based on just notions of superiority. Imagine in an environment where we got together and said, okay, what is the optimum way to eat for all of us? It cannot be just one tribe, whatever the tribe was doing is optimum for everybody, no matter where they are. You are doing that because you happen to be stuck in Northern Europe, where you couldn't grow crops all the time.
Right.
So that's why you are eating that way. Now you go and colonize a land where they're growing crops year round, and you tell them you have to eat meat, and they say, no, it's not true.
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense, right? So it's like imposing a one single culture on everybody is going to cause problems. It's going to make no sense. And this is why the food system not only has social injustice built in, it also has racism built in, it also has colonialism built in, because it's just mindlessly adopting something instead of thinking about it and figuring out what is the right way to do things. And
Right.
that's what we are called to do today. Re-examine everything. Okay? Re-examine everything, knowing that you have to solve a problem. And then, use science to figure out how to solve that problem properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think we'll get into the solution more next chapter. Is there any final statement you'd like to say on?
The enormous redundancy in how we have been using the earth is also the seed of a solution for all our problems. And know that that solution is within reach for all of us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Rao. And this is almost a setup episode because we talk about the solution in depth in our next episode, which is chapter 15, the vegan rewilding solution. So we hope people join us for that as well. So again, we encourage everyone to read the book. There is a Planet B. It's fantastic. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you again for our next episode. Thank you all so much for joining us.
This has been a podcast from Planet B, where animals are not production units. If you haven't moved here yet, we thank you for visiting.
That was a fairly short one. Go ahead, Alison.
Yeah, but it was very important as your interviewer Mike was just saying, because it does set the foundation for where we're going with all of this.
Mhm.
And there's an element of what you talked about today that I hadn't had in the proper perspective before. I knew it was a big problem, but you talked about how the waste from the excrement from the animals is 10 times what they produce in terms of food.
Right.
So 1 kilo or 1 pound of animal flesh has already produced 10 pounds or 10 kilos of excrement. And
Right.
we already know about some of the environmental issues of having all of that put on Mother Earth. You've talked about the marination of the earth with all of these things that we produce. But I hadn't heard that ratio before, 10 to 1.
Right.
And so how do we begin to integrate that into our message, into our understanding of what we're doing? Do you have any thoughts or?
It's there in the data, right? And so we need to, I keep coming back to the data that the IPCC already published back in 2015, where if you follow the lines and you see, let me just share that and show you. Okay. This is the land biomass flow data. Yeah, I mean, we need to train people to read block diagrams so you understand what's going on. Because I do this for a living, so it's easy for me.
Yeah, this particular graph is intimidating just to see it.
I
So,
know.
uh,
So the thicker the lines, the more stuff coming in. And blocks are where things go in and then things come out.
okay.
Okay. So the thicker the line, that's so much went in. And the stuff that comes out and goes down, that's waste. See how
Mm,
thick the waste arrow is?
yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
really thick here, right? And this
Yeah.
is the output arrow. That's what the meat and dairy and fish and meat, dairy, and
Okay.
eggs are. You see
Mm-hmm.
how thin that is total?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, so that's what goes into the food processing block.
Mm-hmm.
And that plus this becomes this plus this. Okay, so hold on. So if you look at the sum of these two, it'll be the same as the sum of these two. And
Oh,
this is the
okay.
waste from the food processing block. That's the
Mm,
actual food that goes out.
mm,
Okay. Now, if I look at the food that goes out, a lot of it is this yellow. Okay. It's only this red is some of it becomes waste and some of it goes in there. So I'm calculating only 0.19 of this total, 1.26 came from animals and 1.07 came from plants, processed plants. And this came from the direct arrow is the raw fruits and vegetables that we are eating without processing. Everything else gets processed. I mean, you have to take the husk off the corn and things. That's the
mhm.
processing, right? And that
Yes.
husk becomes the waste, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if I look at the weight of the animal food that's on our plate and compare it to the weight of the waste, that's a factor of 10.
Okay.
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 Because
Mm-hmm.
it's only 0.19 and this is 2 point something,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
right? So that's more than a factor of 10. So the animals are pooping 10 times as much as they're feeding us. Now, if you
Yeah.
look at the difference in this weight, the weight that's going in, and then you look at the weight that's going into the food block, weight that's going into the other manufacturing block. This is where the skin and the blood and the bones go in. And the waste, you add it all up and you will see there is a difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
This plus this does not equal to these two. These. This is much bigger than this. So what happened to the rest? Well,
Yeah.
that got metabolized. So you can calculate the breathing contribution of animals just from this block diagram. Because it got metabolized and it got sent up as CO2 into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Okay. So I calculated the breathing contribution of animals from this block diagram and I matched it with the calculation that a physicist had done in an earlier paper, and the two matched. So then I said, okay, the numbers seem to be correct.
Okay. Yeah. Um, my imagination goes to work. I can see it. I mean, I've been around farm animals enough in my lifetime that I know how much excrement is produced.
Right.
And if you think about all the excrement between the time an animal comes into the world and to the time in which it is slaughtered, uh, a lot of excrement is produced. But I
Right.
had
Yeah.
actually heard the ratio before. So,
Right.
yeah.
The average is at least 10 to 1, if not more. I can calculate the exact average.
Yeah, that is a convenient ratio, 10 to 1. It's easy to remember, but it would be helpful to know an actual number.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Uh-huh. So thank you. Mhm.
You're welcome. Brahm?
Yes, I had also another thing that he used to do better, in a sense, for physical health, the way of working for in our land is better to growing vegetables, and we get our whole energy system is working rather than just having an AI do it
Right.
and somebody
Yes.
so
You don't have
it's
to think anymore. Just let AI do the thinking for you.
yeah, that's really an important issue also. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Another question is how to approach the people about this. Um, I think can give a lot of information, but I heard that somebody else speak and he asked questions
Mhm.
because you have to know your audience, I guess,
Right.
where they are and meet them there.
Right.
This sort of interplay. How do you do that actually? Because uh,
Right. You basically, I first, you have to, let's say someone invites you. I go study their website to understand where they're coming from.
okay,
And so I try to get an idea of how you would then talk to someone with that background,
that's good.
what their values are, you understand what their values are and so on. And then you can tailor your presentation to their values
Mhm,
and show them. Or, I mean, normally I use the same slide deck, but I tailor what I say.
mhm,
Like I'm speaking to the Institute for Chemical Technology on the 27th. And for them, I'm going to emphasize the novel entities transgression
mhm,
and what that really means, how that is impacting life today. I've seen the village women in India who are dying 8 years younger than the men because of the novel entities that are there in the firewood that they're burning.
mhm.
Okay. Because
Good.
they
Yeah,
burn the firewood to do cooking. And so the calculation is that every time they cook, it's as if they're smoking one pack of cigarettes. That's the equivalent of what is happening to their lungs. Okay.
oh,
And all that is industrial chemicals that was emitted from industries that came down in the rain, got absorbed by trees, and it's there in the trees.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
good. So we have to study very much actually before we give a talk.
yes, yes. So I study that, and I'm going to emphasize that in my talk to them, because my objective there is to get them to reconsider chemical processes, get them to reconsider the curriculum,
Yeah,
on what is taught, because they're teaching these students how to make plastic, how to make all these entities.
yeah,
And I think there is now a total of 350,000 different chemicals that we have created
yeah.
for our industrial processes. And do we really need all of them? We have to get them to examine everything and see if we can make it achieve the same objective with more natural processes.
Mhm. So you
So,
have to approach them in the fields where they are experts in.
correct, yeah.
That
Where they're
can work
experts,
on
yeah.
that.
And then get them to, help us with the solution.
Yeah,
Ultimately, that's my objective is, how do you, because you are the experts in chemistry, so you can tell us how we can do the same thing with less toxic processes.
very good.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
yeah. Toby?
Um, um, Another great episode, and it's amazing going into the research when I'm actually helping putting this episode together through visuals, and you get to do a deep dive into the data that you're presenting. And I did find that graph that you just showed, which is still on the IPCC's website. It's still there. And I don't know how you managed to keep all this information in your head. You've always got all this stuff. I'm slowly starting to remember things, but
Well, I mean, just like the novel entities are marinating the earth, I've been marinating in the data.
What would you say to somebody who says, well, all these animals produce all this feces, but it's a natural thing that they do.
Right.
And what you're going to do if you don't have feces to fertilize the soil, or you're going to rely just on NPKs, which is one of the biggest drivers for novel entities, or biogeochemical flows, sorry, polluting the waters and so on.
Right. Now, as it is, a lot of the waste is not being used in cropland. In fact, that it shows you that same block diagram. I can show you the feedback that goes from the waste. Okay.
Before you were saying you don't know what that even means. All the waste then gets reused.
Right. It gets used.
Because I know that farmed animals also end up feeding on other farmed animals, like fish and stuff goes into the food.
Right. So let me show you. These are the things that they have already they've shown in the block diagram. So all the waste gets accumulated here in this waste and residues block. There's waste from our food, waste from the energy, waste from materials, waste from bioenergy production, waste from food production, and waste from producing the animals, right? So this is and then you see this one small line going back to feed the animals. So that's 0.25 gigatons. That is greater than the amount of food we are getting from the animals. So the amount of food we are getting from the animals is 0.19 gigatons. Okay. Don't be fooled by this blue line being thick. It's thick because of the yellow plus the pink put together. Okay. Most of it is plants. The animal portion of it is only 0.19. Okay. It's very thin. So 0.19 is what we get from the animals, and 0.26 is what goes from the waste block back to the animals. So the animals are eating more poop than they're giving us food.
The animals are eating the poo.
Yeah, well, from the residues.
Wow.
From the
Is that like
residues. That's the one
leftover
I said, I
carcass?
don't want to know what that is, but anyway. They're eating some poop. Those are the protein meals that we create and feed to the animals. That comes from the waste processing. And then there is feedback from this
Right.
to back to this, right? It's a line that goes back to the cropland. So that is the manure that's going into the cropland. Okay. So as it is, the organic part is very, very small compared to the so-called conventional part, which is basically NPK. Okay. So we're not using much of the waste from the animals because the waste from the animals is quite toxic. If you use a lot of it, you're going to get that toxin in the food you're eating. Because we are feeding the animals not, especially in the factory farm settings. And imagine 99% of the animals are being raised in factory farm settings. And in factory farm settings, the animals are fed hormones and all kinds of chemicals to make them grow fast. Okay. And a lot of what you feed the animals come out in the waste.
So what would you say to people who are all for animal agriculture and, fight for it, all these different influences, and they're completely against veganism? And you see them having debates and all the corniest ideas. Usually they're like, I don't know, all for paleo stuff.
Right.
They say the importance of fertilizing with feces and how, eating plants creates all this, we have to use NPKs to fertilize.
No, you don't. I mean, you can use the crops themselves. If you don't, you can compost the crops themselves and create a feedback loop there. That's what organic farming is all about. Okay. And that's what a lot of people are now doing these days in organic farming. So, and I say that that's a better use of biomass than feeding the biomass to an animal and collecting the poop at the rear end, because the poop is only 1/3 of what you feed the animal. The other 2/3 gets metabolized.
Because I'm trying to play devil's advocate, but it's not very easy. I already know that. I've taken horticulture and permaculture, and I understand food forestry and symbiosis of mycelium and all that. But
that block diagram is very important. If you can understand that block diagram, you can answer a lot of these questions that come from people.
That's brilliant. One more thing about what about potassium? Because you got NPKs. We talk about nitrogen and phosphorus, but potassium not as much of a pollutant for the biogeochemical flows, or
it is. We are overusing it, and it comes together with the nitrogen when we are overusing it, because it's in the form of these fertilizers. Because what we are doing is we are pouring it on the land, and only a small percentage of it is absorbed by the plants. The vast majority of it just runs off in the water and runs off in the next rain and goes into rivers. And so everything, all the chemicals you pour into fields eventually wind up in rivers and then wind up in the ocean. And it over-fertilizes the bottoms of rivers and the bottom of the ocean. And that's how it kills life in the ocean. So that phosphorus is part of that cycle. Okay. And if you look at the two, the nitrogen and phosphorus is a little less than the nitrogen, but nitrogen is slightly greater transgression than the phosphorus cycle. It's transgression. But they're both critical.
Yeah. Well, I've got a bit of a cold, so I can't think too clearly, but yeah, really another great episode. Anyway, I'll let Alison jump in.
Sure.
Thank you.
Toby.
I'm rejoining you with a question from the chat. I don't know if you've had a chance to see, but there's a question from about 12 minutes ago from Michael.
Okay.
And I don't think I can fairly reduce his question into just a couple of words, but it has to do with the intelligence of plants and whether he's, as a vegan, he gets a question about whether we're eating other intelligent beings by eating plants. And he's wondering if you could raise points of climate, more waste, and other points about how to address this point directly.
Yeah, there was a good article I read by a botanist who explained the difference between plants and animals, who explained, basically, animals eat plants. So if you're raising animals, you're going to raise a lot of plants to feed the animals. And so, as I said, there's a 39-to-1 reduction that happens. So you have to feed the animal 39 pounds of food to get 1 pound of food from the animal. So which means the animal is doing a lot more damage to plants if you're eating animals. So think of the animal as a intermediary, and that ultimately we are only eating plants. Even if you're eating animals, you're eating plants. Okay? Because that animal is represented by 39 pounds of plants behind the animal. So now I ask you, how would you minimize your footprint on the planet?
Right.
So
Yes.
immediately you would say, well, eat the plants directly. And then
Right.
this botanist pointed out, there's a difference between plants and animals. If I cut a branch of a tree, or if I eat some leaves of a plant, the plant grows back. The tree grows back. In fact, it may even grow back faster and better. Okay, that's called pruning. Okay, so nature created these mechanisms that assumed that animals are going to eat the plant, and then the plant can grow faster when that happens. So there's a feedback loop between the plant and the animal kingdom that happens that way, right? But if you go eat the leg of a lamb, the leg doesn't grow back. So that tells you there's a difference between eating plants and eating animals.
Mhm.
And
I like that. Yeah, that's well put.
yeah. And you also hear the animal screaming at you if you try to eat its leg.
Yes.
So you
For
have to
sure.
first kill the animal and then eat the animal. So these are the kinds of points that people normally raise when they're trying to avoid the question. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, are there any final points you'd like to add, Sailesh?
I'm an engineer, and I'm trying to basically analyze the data, put everything on the table, and say, based on where we are today, how do we accomplish our objective? How do we solve the problem that we are facing? Okay. I'm just doing this engineering analysis. And it's not based, I'm not blaming anybody who did things in the past. I don't want to get into any of that. It's because we have to assume that everything that happened for the best. So that you don't have to worry about the past anymore. You're just saying, how do we go forward together and create a thriving world for all of us? Because that blue-green earth above me is the best place to live.
Yeah.
Bar none. I don't
I
care
know.
if Jeff Bezos loves his moon. He can go there, And if Elon Musk loves to go to Mars, he can go there. But I love this planet. And I'm trying to figure out how to make sure that this planet becomes blue and green, not blue and brown. Okay. That's my main focus. Make it blue-green and we'll be fine.
Yes, it's a beautiful image.
Yeah. And it's much easier to make this blue-green than to go and try to make something else that's completely brown into a blue-green.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think, right? Isn't that the
Yeah,
obvious? Right.
it's almost there, right? The only thing is
Yeah.
you've been doing things to make the green into brown.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the kind of problem I want to solve, as opposed to going and creating new life support systems on Mars from scratch.
Yeah,
That's silly.
silly. Toby has raised his hand again.
Go ahead, Toby.
As I've seen more messages in the chat, I know that there's a documentary I watched a few years ago saying that plants are actually using us to produce even more of them, through how they taste and how they look and things, which falls into the same idea of what you're saying. Animals are using us to, nature's using us. But I think they were saying about annuals. Was it Michael? I can't see on there, but yeah, Michael was saying about annuals, and you're taking their life away from them, and they're not perennial, or biennials as well, and seeds and beans too. All different, like root vegetables maybe. But I think the objective maybe is to save ourselves first, and then worry about the things. I don't know, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, you could say that the trees have been using us to make sure that they don't have to die off and get frozen during glaciation. and then be born again later. So you could look at the data of what has happened and interpret it in multiple ways. And the key is to find a story that makes everyone jump up and say, okay, now I want to join you and do this. So the key is always, however you explain the past, it's about action into the future, action in the present to create a better future. So whichever story gets the most correct action in the present moment is the story I want.
Like you say, like using love has options. So people are more inclined to go a direction if we use love and love each other. It's a better way to be able to, instead of using force or control and the money game.
Right. Yeah. Love is the best way. In fact, at COP30 in Brazil, I was telling the people who were there, mostly indigenous people who were coming, because we were in the Amazon, and telling them it's people from all over the world have to now collaborate and work together to restore this planet. And wouldn't you like to be part of that? And they all wanted to be part of that. Okay. So they love the idea that there are vegans all over the world who are doing this together to solve the problem.
What would you say to people who say, well, it's my each to their own, it's my choice. I want to do what I'd like to do. Is it really a choice when we're literally, in the state of this huge polycrisis?
Correct. So we have to explain to them that there's a polycrisis, and there is such a thing as secondhand. We all know about secondhand smoke. Right? Don't blow the cigarette smoke in my face, because I don't want to breathe it. Yeah. So go out somewhere where I cannot smoke, you cannot breathe it anymore. Same thing here. There is secondhand eating. So you have to say, if you want to eat this, maybe you should go with Elon Musk to Mars and eat over there, because it's impacting our home here on planet Earth. So secondhand eating is much more, to me, it's much more immediate. It's much more widespread, because there is no place to hide on planet Earth. You are demanding 39 times as much food for yourself when you eat that animal.
Yeah, the ratios is mind-blowing.
Right.
It's just getting the message out there and talking to as many people and showing them the data and where it comes from, so they can believe it and truly live in line with what it is they now
maybe,
know.
That gives me an idea. Maybe on our website, Climate Healers, we can take the data on meat consumption in every country, meat and fish consumption, and then translate it into equivalent plant consumption by using this ratio, 39:1 ratio. In fact, it's 100 to 1 from ruminants. It's more like 15 to 1 for monogastrics. So they separated that out in the block diagram, if you notice. So I can create a much more accurate translation of the footprint of different human beings. So you can see that how much equivalent food you're eating if you're eating animals.
That'd be really good.
Yeah.
I like how I can talk and help people think about new things, because Brittany always tells me I'm doing that.
Okay, good.
So,
good.
yeah, great. That'd be brilliant if you could do that.
Yeah, I think that will make a lot of sense. And we can use the data from our world in data and then translate it into this footprint, plant footprint. So assume that you're only eating plants. Even when you eat animal, you're eating the plant that the animal ate.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Then you can see how much plants you're eating in every meal. And, so if the average human being is eating like half a kg of food, you can show that North Americans are eating 15 kgs of food, whatever it is. So you can see what's going on.
And however I can help to help you do that,
Oh,
we've
thank
got
you.
a great team here, don't we? So
Yeah, thank you.
yeah,
It's
brilliant.
conveying the story in such a way that people understand the impact that they're having, and then they join us to solve the problem together. Because when you have such a big footprint, plant footprint, you have the gift to give to the planet. And you can say it's my choice to eat it that way. Fine. Eventually, there'll be fewer and fewer of you doing that as more and more people join our side, because that's the only side that's going to thrive on this planet.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Any other questions or no? I haven't been following the discussions on the chat.
Multitasking.
All right. So this podcast will be repeated again this evening, US Eastern Time. And please come back for tomorrow's podcast. And please tell everyone there's a lot of work going on here behind the scenes. A lot of people have been working on this. And I'm really amazed at how this is coming out. So I'm just the guy talking here, but there's so many people doing so much work to make this happen. And I'm so grateful to all of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
There are no more questions. I guess we can end today. Did Amit go to sleep?
I'm thinking maybe I'm typing a message.
Okay, no problem.
I think I can find the song.
All right.
Share screen.
The house is burning, but we're still sitting in the glow. Phones charged, lights on, pretending we don't know. But the forest is silent, the river's running low, and the flame on our plates is the strongest fire we throw. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. 7 boundaries broken, the earth pushed past the line. Climate, land, species, fresh water, chemicals, nutrients, oceans in decline. Not danger, disaster in real time. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Metaphorians rise, this is your power. And here in India, one truth stands the same. Milk is not just milk, dairy feeds the flame. Cows and methane, fields and forests turn to grain. Politics, culture, carbon, all wired to the same chain. Every cup of curd is heat in the air, every block of butter is a forest repair. It's not a small habit, it's a planetary affair. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is our hour. Energy fixes half the hurt, Dr. Rao made that clear. But food fixes the other half, the half that's burning here. Change the plate, change the land, change the future's atmosphere. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Metaphorians unite, this is your choir. Every millet, every fruit, every sapseed, every bean is water on the wildfire of a world we've never seen. Every oil-free bite is a river turning clean. This is not perfection, it's direction. Not pressure, but protection. A week of choices can cool a generation. A company's courage can ignite a nation. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. Metaphorians unite, Metaphorians ignite, sharing love in the metazone, light in the path to a cooler home. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Together we rise, together we